be our video tutorial on Dplyr, or in the Tidyverse, Mutate and Transmute. So here we're going to want to create new variables in our data set, or create a new variable that's not in our data set, exists in another one. So what we're going to do is go back and we're going to use the Dplyr library again. So if you've watched the previous video, you already have this installed. Otherwise, you can go over to your packages and install it here. Now, I've rearranged my layout of my RStudio, so it's easier for you guys to see what happens when I run something here. It'll pop up here instead of down over here. And hopefully it'll make it easier to read as well. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run this, and notice it tells you that filter and lag, intersect, set diff, and set equal union, all those were changed. We used filter last time to filter out information, and what it did was took down the number of rows. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is set my working directory. Now, my working directory is not your working directory, because this is the one for this machine. And I'm on a Windows machine right now, and this is the directory to my desktop, which is where I have the Crime.csv data set. And this is the one I'm going to use again in this episode. All right, so I've read that in. And here we go. We're looking at the top of this, and we can see we have population change, percent youth, percent free lunch, change in income, crime rate, and change in crime rate. All right, so what we're going to want to do now is we want to look at a relationship here. So suppose we want to create a new variable. So we're going to take crime1 like we have before. We're going to use our then operator, if I can type it correctly. All right, so we're going to use the then operator, and then we're going to do mutate. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in what we want. So I'm going to call this deriv, just because I think it's a derivative. Okay, so it's like a derivative. What I'm interested in is the change in crime rate. So how much is the crime rate changing as the change in population? So the population is changing, as are these two related to each other, right? So as I increase the population, does it change the crime rate? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And if I just simply run this, it will give me a new data set over here. Okay, and it gives me the whole thing. And if you notice, it has all of the columns as before, but there's this new column here. Deriv, which is what I named it over here. This was my column name. And I said equals, and it produces this new column here that allows me to look at or create this new column directly into my data set. Well, I didn't actually write it into the data set. It's all there together. If I wanted to write it into a data set, I would have to do something like copy and paste. And then I'm going to do this as crime2. It'll still use crime1. Crime2 is crime1, and then I run this, and it adds on that extra column. And this is really nice in the sense that if I need a new column in my data set, bingo, I can just put it right in there. It's a little bit difficult to do in base R because you have to play around with lots of things to get it to work, but here this works beautifully inside of this tidy environment. Okay, so this is mutate. What is transmute? Well, transmute is actually the same kind of idea, but what if I don't want to have all the other data with it, right? What if I just want that column by itself, because that's all I care about now? Now I can see if I can type this then operator again. So what I'm going to use is transmute. Okay, this is going to do basically the same thing, except that it's going to omit all the other information. Which maybe that's exactly what I want. I don't want to see all the other information. I just am interested in this information. So if I run this by itself, I should just get the column by itself. And if you look here, over here, I only have one column here, and it's just the column of those numbers. It didn't attach it to the data set. So I could write this as crime3 if I wanted to. And the other thing is now you can start chaining these things together. Like, for example, if you're interested in getting a summary, right? This is the derivative. This is, look, as the population increases, it looks like crime rate is actually going down on these. But not always, right? Here, it definitely went up there. but it looks like it's going down because it looks to be negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take what I have here, and I'm going to use another then operator, and I'll do summarize again, and I'll just take the mean. All right, so the then operator, and then I will summarize, and then I'm going to have mderiv, and this will be the mean of the deriv variable. Now notice that I'm chaining these together, okay? Deriv, oh, and I'm going to just use here, well, I can use transmute. This will give me a single number. I notice here that I create the variable here, and in the next statement I can use that variable, and that's important. I don't need to create another variable, attach it to the data set, and then do something on that. It'll do it all at once, and that's what this idea of keeping things tidy is. So if I run this here, I should get crime 3, which is only one observation of one variable, right? That's what it says down here, and if I run just this part, you can see that it's 1.507037. Okay, so this gave me the mean of that. And this is really, really handy to have around, to be able to nicely set up in a easily readable format. So I take the crime, I create this new variable called derivative, which is the change in crime rate divided by population change, and then I'm going to take the average. What's the average of those? And that gives me this way to group or pull my information together in a much easier way than in base R. All right, so in the next one, we are going to do some other ideas like selecting and group by, because I love group by. All right, see you in the next episode.